We're coming to you live from Savannah, Georgia. I'm Stuart Shepard. I'm the host of First Liberty Live. This is a little different this week from what we usually do because typically we're in our studio at our headquarters in Texas, but this week we're in Savannah, Georgia. We're here on the Riverwalk. We're going to talk to them in just a second. I want you to get a look at this. This is the Savannah River coming up here. We've been watching container ships go by. It's just a gorgeous location. Typically, we have this event in Washington, D.C., but of course with COVID and everything, Washington is pretty much locked down. So we decided where would be a nice place to go, and we thought Savannah, Georgia would be good. Tons of history here. So we brought all the young people and the presenters all to this location. About 20 young people this year, the best and the brightest from all over the country. He's the best, she's the brightest, is my understanding. This is Samuel and Marianne, who are two of the young people who are with us this year. Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Hi. First, just give you a chance to introduce yourselves. Where are you from? What school are you connected with? I know you graduated already. And just a couple of things about yourself. Anything that sounds good.
Yeah,
You can go first, Samuel.
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm from Baylor University. I'm originally from just outside of Waco, Texas. I've been there for about the past 10 years, and before that, my dad was in the Air Force. We were all over the place and got to experience a lot of the country, including just south of here in Valdosta, Georgia. So beautiful. I love Georgia so much. In my free time, I operate a paper on campus called The Standard at thestandardspeaks.com. We run independent journalism and talk about the truth, beauty, and good that can be found in just everyday life, and that's generally what we talk about.
And a lot of the topics this year are going to nail that for you.
Definitely,
I've been talking to at least one of the presenters. Marianne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Marianne. I graduated from Franciscan University of Steubenville, a very small Catholic school right outside of Pittsburgh. I studied international business, which is an odd major for this program, but I really enjoyed studying the way sort of international cultures interact with each other. Currently, I'm a fellow at the John Jay Institute, which is a sort of this program on steroids is what I like to call it. So it's taking faith, politics, and theology and sort of intermixing it, and how we as young people can sort of play that in today's society. And some of the cool things I've done throughout my life, I've done a lot of mission work, so foreign mission work. So getting to experience different religions and different cultures and sort of the idea of religious freedom for that is something I'm very interested in and have got to experience throughout the world.
Very good. And it's good to hear from both of you. I'm so thankful that you're here because it's a great week. You've gotten to experience the first day of it so far.
Oh, yeah.
You could be a lot of different places this week, but you chose to spend this week here at the First Liberty Fellowship. What piqued your interest about it? What got you interested that made you want to be here when you could be about anywhere?
You know, at the time I was working as a research assistant to a professor that's actually coming here tomorrow, Dr. David Corey at Baylor University. Expressed I was interested in political theology. You know, how does faith and the public life work together? And Dr. Corey was like, you know, you have to apply to this. First Liberty is definitely the place you need to be.
We like hearing that.
So, oh yeah.
Keep going, you had more.
Yeah, and so I ended up shooting an application. I was hoping I'd make it, and I was accepted. You know, I was excited to go to D.C., and then it was changed, and then it was even moved to Savannah, which I love Savannah. It's so beautiful. So it's just glad either way, and I'm super glad to be here.
Marianne, what got you interested in being here this
Yeah, so I actually interned at the Heritage Foundation last spring before all COVID happened. And I heard a lot of talks from sort of Ryan Anderson, Robbie George, and a bunch of other scholars in the religious domestic policy area, and it got me sort of spiked for religious freedom, and I thought they mentioned First Liberty to me. I was like, that's an interesting thing, so I decided to apply for the fellowship, and I'm glad I'm doing it now instead of earlier, actually, because the John Jay Fellowship has truly sort of prepared me for this and digging deeper into philosophical text and religious text to support sort of religious freedom. But also I think today our culture is very overrun with sort of progressive ideology that sort of puts change over tradition and things like that. So I think it is very important for us today as youth to engage in robust discussion about protecting sort of one of the liberties that is going to be the most fought for in the future, and that is religious liberty.
Now, you've just finished up the first day, and this goes for several more days here. What was one concept today that stuck with you that you're going to have to chew on for a while and think about? What was something that caught your attention that you took special notes on?
You know, it was talking about how really liberties, different kinds of liberties work together to create just one concept that is freedom. So today we talked about how religious liberty and economic liberty, as well as political liberty, all need to work together to create a truly free society. And we had graphs put up on the screen that showed direct correlation. Something I'd really never considered before is how religious liberty can affect the other two major freedoms that political scientists usually study. I didn't realize they were so closely related.
Yeah, solid. Marianne?
Yeah, so I think one of the talks that really stuck out to me today was on natural law. I think the speaker sort of hit on that we live in a post-reason society, one that is sort of overcome by emotive responses to things. People just do things because they feel like it. And I think a natural law foundation for the discussion of religious liberty is very important. And I think that topic is not really understood a lot by youth, and I think being able to discuss it with prominent scholars and other people my age was very good to talk about, and something I'm going to wrestle with more. So
excellent. Now, how do you think the insights you gained from this week will influence your careers going forward? How do you think it might help you navigate the path toward the future?
You know, I've always been interested in the intersection between religion and politics, and a lot of the speeches, even today, and I've looked at the topics for tomorrow and the next day, they're definitely going to touch on research focuses that I'm interested in the future, specifically patristics for me, and you'll meet him later, but there's a fantastic professor of patristics that we're going to hear from tomorrow, that I'm just so excited to hear weigh on how religious liberty can be shaped and how we can learn by that.
Define patristics.
Patristics, the early Christians, the church fathers. So how did the early Christians think? How did they interact with the world? What was their philosophy? How did they engage with faith and sometimes even public life? And I think that's what I'm most interested in.
And they were trying to be Christians in a truly messed up culture just like we are.
Definitely.
It really is true. Marianne, what do you see going forward?
Yeah, so sort of going off what Sam said, I'm really interested in the connection between religious freedom and sort of political life. That's something very interesting to me. But I have a passion for doing mission work and working international and the whole cause for international religious liberty. So I think we had a talk earlier today that talked about the connection between domestic and international religious liberty and how they have to be intertwined. So that is something that I hope to bring into in the future, and something that I hope this program can help develop more.
Outstanding. Hey, great meeting both of you. I know you've got a walking tour tonight that you've got to get to, but I appreciate you sharing some time with us and look forward to hanging out with you for the rest of the week. Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you so much.
Sam. And thank you, Marianne.
Thank you so much.
One space, no E on the end. I need to get these things right. Hey, speaking of patristics, because that's something I never get to say ever, our next guest here is one of the speakers at the event this year. His name is Stephen Presley, and he is a professor of church history, associate professor at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. He's also an expert in patristics, the study of the early church fathers, and he's a Baylor grad for his undergraduate, which just happened to win an NCAA tournament this week. I'm required to mention that along the way.
Definitely.
And he also heads up the doctoral program at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Thank you for spending some time with us here. You're going to get your chance to speak to the young people tomorrow, and one of the themes that you're going to talk about is the importance of excellence in the Christian life or in the lives of people of faith of all kinds. Yeah. What is it about excellence that you want them to hear and understand? Why is it so important?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I can't tell you how glad I am to be here. It is a beautiful day, and it's so exciting to see all these students here. Exciting to see their faces and hear about all that they have been up to already, and just getting a chance to fellowship with them. The talk tomorrow is really a blending of religious liberty and the essential goodness of Christianity, or the excellence of Christianity in the early church, and looking at how the early church in one sense was already poised to defend religious liberty in those very first few centuries, while at the same time recognizing that they needed to make positive contributions to the culture, and they needed to be excellent in their moral lives, they needed to be excellent in their work, they needed to be excellent in the way in which they conducted themselves. And so there's a wonderful opportunity, I hope, that we have tomorrow to kind of look back at the history of our church and the way in which some of the earliest Christians, living in times that were often seem very much like the days in which we live, in which Christians thrived because they emphasized both the freedom of religion and simultaneously the essential goodness of Christianity for the church and for the culture.
Yeah, when you look at a room full of students, and you got to see them today and meet them, but tomorrow you get to speak to them. When you look at that room, what do you see when you look in those faces?
Yeah, it is, I can't tell you how exciting it is. And I know, speak for so many of the fellows who are here and so many of those teaching, there is an energy and an excitement here with every single presentation. We are running out of time with the students asking questions. They are engaged, they are thinking, and I'm incredibly optimistic when I see a room filled with students who are committed to the concept and the teachings of religious liberty, committed to religion, committed to Christianity, and committed to seeing those things continue to make important contributions in our culture in these days. So I'm incredibly optimistic.
I should also mention one other connection we have with you with First Liberty Institute is you're a research fellow with the Center for Religion, Culture, and Democracy. It just launched. It's a think tank that First Liberty Institute has put together. You and some other top minds. Just talking about issues like this from the idea being, if we get the culture right, we wouldn't need to have so many lawsuits out there, which would be helpful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I'm excited about the new center at First Liberty, and excited about what the opportunity that we have here in to make a contribution. I just got a chance last night and then today just to spend time with some of the other fellows. We all come with different strengths. We all come with different academic backgrounds. But the hope is by a collective unity and working together, we can continue like this week here and like this weekend to make some helpful contributions, and to make some helpful to have some helpful opportunities for students like this to continue to see how religious liberty and how Christianity can go hand in hand, and continue to do that. Yeah.
I want to circle back to the idea of excellence. We all have young people within our spheres of influence that we would like to encourage and motivate toward excellence, whatever they do. Mary Ann mentioned that her major isn't the one typically here, which really isn't true. She doesn't know the fellowship yet, but we look for young people from all different genres, all different specialties, because that's what it's going to take to influence the culture, whether you're a teacher or an engineer or a lawyer or whatever your specialty might be. We need that. How do we motivate the young people in our lives to pursue excellence? What can we do that would help them look toward that rather than just being good enough?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, of course, first and foremost, it's for so many of those of us who have children, it's to be involved in their lives and continue to encourage them in the ways God has gifted them, in the ways God has challenged them, or the ways God is using them, to see those opportunities and to continue to instill in them those good morals and those good things that will encourage them to make those positive and important contributions. And so I think one is being there. In addition to that, I know we live in some unusual times, but there is no better time to make sure that we're continuing to be involved in our local churches, continue to get our students involved in all kinds of ministry opportunities at our churches that are instilling and forming in them the kinds of values and the kinds of moral excellence and theological and doctrinal excellence that we can. And I think those are ways that we can continue to influence them.
And of course, we can't say, go be excellent, without also taking a look in the mirror. How do we ourselves focus on that? What are some things we can be thinking about?
Yeah, and this is so vitally important, as you said just a minute ago. There is a sense in which we can have a defensive posture and continuing to try to defend religious liberty and to defend the importance of that. At the same time, just like a good game plan in a football game, there needs to be an offensive posture in which we are forming, in which we are shaping, and we need to do that ourselves. I mean, we need to be involved in our local churches, we need to be involved in local ministries, and we need to continue to see and to work in terms of our own moral and our own theological and spiritual formation. Absolutely.
Let's put this in full context then. If we were able to significantly raise the bar for excellence among people of faith in this generation coming up, what would the impact be on the United States of America? What would change?
Yeah, and again, this will tie with the talk I'm giving tomorrow. When we look at the first 3 centuries of the church, the odds were stacked against the church. They were born a small Jewish sect, a handful of followers, and yet when you look at what happened from the 1st through the 4th century, the church managed, even in the midst of persecution, even in the midst of being marginalized at so many opportunities, so many turns, the church, through organic relationships, through organic interpersonal relationships, continued to evangelize and build the church and continue to live out their spiritual lives in ways that after so many years, the church continued to grow in spite of all of those obstacles. And the hope is, I think that can happen here. And I'm incredibly optimistic and hopeful that by stressing those things, that we can continue to see the church grow, even in the midst of a culture that isn't always favorable towards the church.
I'm thankful we got to connect with you and
Yeah.
enjoyed hearing from you today. A lot of great insights in there, very helpful.
Appreciate
Spot on.
it.
I'll let you run along
Yep.
as I finish up here, but it's great
Thank
meeting
you.
Thanks for making some time for us. Hey, before we go, just want to encourage you, if you would, to please like and share our videos. That's how these get shared around, because that's how the internet works. But also, events like we're holding this week here in Savannah and on a more regular basis in DC when life is normal, if we ever get back to that again, we're only able to do that because of the donations from generous supporters like you. These students don't have to pay to be here. We see it as an important part of our work to reach out to them, to help bring them along, to show them why religious freedom is so foundational for the freedoms that we have here in the United States of America, so that as they pursue their careers and whatever they might be going into, that they can apply what they've learned here through a lifetime. And that's part of what you're supporting when you support First Liberty Institute. And again, that's the fellowship part. You also heard us talk about the Center for Religion, Culture, and Democracy. That's a new initiative we've got going that's going to bring together some of the top thinkers in the country to write about and teach the rest of us. Frankly, I'm looking forward to learning a lot from them about what it means to apply religious freedom in a culture as messed up as ours. Because frankly, as Dr. Presley was just pointing out, even the early Christians lived in a culture that was just as messed up as ours, and there's so much that we can learn and apply even in this modern day. So like and share. If you would, if you want to, you can text FIRST to 474747, and that's a simple way to get to the donation page, or you can go to firstlibertylive.com and just look for the big red donate button. Hey, we've got a special treat coming up, a couple of more episodes in the next couple of weeks. Next week we'll be talking with Kelly Shackelford about this effort in Washington toward court packing, toward changing the number of seats on the U.S. Supreme Court. He's going to have a lot of good insights that you won't want to miss. And then the week after that, we've got Fox News host and author Shannon Bream is going to be our guest. She's got a new book out called Women of Faith Speak. Women of the Bible Speak. I need to get the book name right. But I'm looking forward to having her on as a guest, and we'll be sharing that with you. You'll be seeing emails and whatnot about that in the coming days. So, from Savannah, Georgia, I'm Stuart Shepard, and we'll see you next week right here on First Liberty Live.